This has no Super Bowl
Yeah.
connection,
Right.
which is fine.
Yeah.
Not everyone in the world, Josh, gives a rat's patoot about our football. I mean, we like to think that we're the center of the universe. I do. But at the same time,
What I want to highlight for listeners is Bob really leaned into, and I agree with him completely, in coaching the system, not coaching the person. You can equate it to the whole teach a man to fish versus, just fishing for them. That is a longer, more challenging road, but leads to longer, more lasting success within that team.
So your job is not to tell them what to do. Your job is to change them.
Yeah.
Right. I don't care how you look at it as a coach, or let's say you're even a peer leader in the organization, but you're coaching folks.
You end up with two different versions of Josh as a coach, and it depends on the length of my stay. So if I am a long-term,
bring it
full-time employee, then I play the slow game.
Yeah.
And I do all the things.
Yeah.
But if I've been brought in on a contract for a 1 month, a 6-week thing,
a gunslinger for hire.
Yeah, then it is, I am doing all of the things Bob said don't do.
You set it up, and I'll chime in because I disagree with you. I disagree, but I think I think I can create some healthy tension between us. And I'll just leave it at that. A little teaser.
You can't. No, this is advice you gave me many moon ago.
I'm going to change it up. I reserve the right to change my mind.
I reserve the right to reject the change of your mind.
And that thus the healthy tension. Entry music. Dun, 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 dun. It's the Bob and Josh show.
Robert?
Josh.
I think we have a little bit of a disagreement, and I'm excited. So, I'll lay
I'm
the foundation.
so excited.
Oh my gosh, what have I done?
I just can't help it.
I feel like I should know better. Like, this is my own fault.
It is.
I did this to myself.
I'm about to explode, and I just can't help it. I don't know the words to the song.
Oh,
is that the point? Right. What's it? Who's the Pointer Sisters?
I don't know. I don't know. We're going to move along.
Okay.
Moving along. Back to our topic, or actually getting to our topic.
Let's dig in, Josh.
Oh, yeah. Let's dig in. Are you done singing and dancing? Like you're the host for the Oscars or something here with your opening monologue and dance
thing.
know. Yeah. No. Okay. So back to business, or actually getting to business. Again, I said that once and didn't do it, so we'll do it for real this time. I'm helping a friend that is wrestling with some challenges where I don't think they understand the weight of their role, the weight of their title, and how that can be disruptive. So they have a good team, things are going well. They're a co-founder role, executive, and very excited. And because they're so excited, they just want to be a part of everything. So they want to be in every team stand-up. They want to be a part of everything and just like totally push in. Which, hey, cool, that's great. But I don't think that's healthy for your team. And so that's what I wanted to talk about with you, is that nigh on 20 years ago, I was struggling with a team that wasn't performing as well as I had hoped, and they weren't evolving, and the retrospectives weren't going as well as I had hoped. Just the change wasn't happening. And I was the VP of something at that point. And so I was talking to you at lunch, and you gave me the virtual smackdown. I was like, listen, dummy, you need to get out of there. I was like, no, but I'm the kind of leader that I can do that. I can be that. And and you were like, no, doesn't matter if you want it to be. Your title says you're not. So just get out of there.
I almost remember that time.
Yeah.
I think it was you were working at a company over by the prison, if I remember.
Yes, that is correct. Right? That is correct.
Right. So Metacasters, that sort of sets the tone, the ambiance of the right. Because he could have kicked me into the prison. But I think I did say to get your attention because you were disagreeing with me so much.
Heaven forbid.
And we've mentioned that story quite a few times in the Metacast. So is that how you were advising your friend? Sort of around that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to put that out. Again, we've talked around this scenario, so I thought it would be worth digging in for a whole episode and getting everything that's in Bob's wonderful brain about that situation.
I mean, I think I agree with myself on the one hand, but also as I've gotten older and potentially wiser, the term that comes to my mind, Josh, is or the terms that come to my mind is situational awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and meeting them where they are. So I'm putting on a coaching hat, right? In this case, maybe a leadership coaching hat. I don't care what your title is, but
Right.
we're coaching someone. So let's say it's leaders, founders. I see that pattern a lot in startups, where founders are and they're well intentioned. Not only they're well
Yeah.
invested, for goodness sakes. I mean, it makes sense. Uh, and then I'm going to exaggerate it. Then some whippersnapper coach comes in, like I did with you, and says, get your butt out of there. Just leave them alone. And that's a really extreme case. So they want to get involved in every decision, and I'm telling them to get your butt out of the room uh, constantly. And what I'm saying, that's not necessarily bad advice, but it's not meeting them where they are. It's not. Uh, it may be very hard for them to do that. It may be detrimental to the team, right? The team, it depends. So you have to be aware of the maturity level of your team. You have to be aware of where the founder is coming from or where the leader is coming from. Like they may have technical information, they may have
Yeah.
product information. So there's an extremeness to that advice or that response that I'm not pushing on the advice. I'm pushing on how extreme is it. And I think as a coach, before you do that, like I was a little heavy-handed years ago. And again,
No,
I am
I've
not
never.
backtracking. I am not backtracking at all. Right. I'm just reflecting because I was right at the time. But I was a bit heavy-handed and I was a bit binary.
Yeah.
And what I'm coming to now is I'm slapping myself historically and saying, you probably should have looked at it more situationally. Um, and the other thing is let you come. I don't have to be the only person who coaches you. Right. So what are some of my options? I could have had that conversation, or if I'm in the coach role in this scenario, I could have had that conversation. I could have gone to another founder and talked to them and see what their reaction is and have them talk to you. I could have gone to an architect on the team very subtly and talked to them about it. I said, have you, and they said, like, yeah, Josh is really overbearing. Uh, well, why aren't you talking to him about it? So my point is, back then it was like Bob had to have the disruptive conversation. And really it's there's a myriad of ways that you could just get to that result. And there's nuance to it. So react to that. Any reactions?
I agree with the nuance, and I understand that we always talk about there's no silver bullet. So this is
Yeah,
definitely like listen to this, contemplate this, figure out, does it fit the situation that you have? What I have had I think it's the luxury of doing over my career repeatedly is coming in where there's a better than decent team. There's a solid team and the company's doing well, and the company is at a point where it can no longer be founder led, founder driven. And I've ended up doing a fair amount of coaching for those founders and helping them understand that they can let go, and helping them understand that this team really does have it under control. And that's the situation, is this is a solid team. And so the excitement was like, oh, this is a good team. So now I want to be a part of it. And it it also gets into, and part of the coaching is, we've said this a few times, is leadership can be lonely. And it can be kind of cool to sit and watch this team that's doing stuff and working together and building all these things. Then you look at your role like, oh, I can't really be a part of that, and so then like, oh, but I do want to be a part of that. And so doing coaching, helping them understand that it's actually better for the entire organization if you let them be. Now, it doesn't mean you fully extract yourself, right? Bob talked about off or on. It's not off or on. It's just understanding your role in that
exactly.
situation, and how you can be beneficial and where you can lean in and where you can help. And one of the things that Bob talked about is something that I've seen many years ago when I hired leaders, and this is something that new air quote agile leaders really wrestle with, is they go to the offer on mode where, oh, we have self-directed teams, so I'm just going to like let them do their
Yep.
thing, and like I'm doing my job if I'm not touching them. If I'm not doing anything, I'm doing my job, then like that's perfect. And the coaching has always been, no, like we hired you for a reason. You have very targeted, specific knowledge and experience that we need to leverage. And why would I pay you to come in and do nothing? Virtually, right? You have knowledge and experience. Let's leverage that within the team. How do we inject that within the team? How do you do it appropriately, as opposed to in a heavy-handed way and just grabbing the steering wheel and yanking it? Those are the kind of coaching things that I've seen. So I think we're in alignment. What I see most, and the conversation I've had to have most, is, I'm sorry, but you can't be a part of this. And then oftentimes it's helping them understand what they should be doing, because not everybody, like, there is no training path to how to be a co-founder or what a executive does, right? You kind of have to figure that out. And I've told the story myself where I hit that and I had no idea, like, what does a CTO actually do? And I had to go figure it out, because there was no like, here's your path. I had to go and chart that myself.
So let me change your role, because I want to try to poke at what you're saying and shift it a bit. So your job is not to tell them what to do. Your job is to change them.
Yeah.
Right. I'm giving you I don't care how you look at it as a coach, or let's say you're even a peer leader in the organization, but you're coaching folks and the landscape is changing. If you are the change agent, then if you leave, they're going to all revert back to old behavior.
Right.
So your job is to actually change the culture. Okay. So that I can remove you and the Josh culture not only is sustained, but grows. So you've changed the dynamics. Somehow you've changed. So now how do you do that? I would say part of it is you need to let the decision making emerge from them. So
when
you can tell,
when you say them, who is them? Is it the team?
So let's say it's one of the founders,
yeah, okay.
One of the founders, and you're trying to, don't trigger on my words. You're trying to kick them out. You're trying to kick them out of the teams. So you have that conversation. Get your butt out of the teams. It's not good. Or you have another conversation. Here's some things you can do so you give them some work so they're not bugging the team, or however many situations. But you're effectively bouncing them out. So they're dependent on you. Well, what would be a way to get them to be dependent on themselves? Maybe you let them do what they were doing, and then you lightly coach them and point things out so they start discovering the things on their own. You allow them to fail. You allow them to have self-discovery. Maybe you're coaching their peers to help them. So you're not just coaching one person, one founder. Maybe there's a coupling of 5 or 6 or 7 leaders that are creating the culture. So now you're looking at that system and you're trying to influence that system so it evolves in a different way. It's less direct. It's more strategic. It might be slower. You may be impatient and say, well, shit, I just want them out of the meeting so that the team can get stuff done. Right. And so that's your driving force, but it's great. And it might have some tactical short-term effect, but ultimately I'm giving you the responsibility that you have to be thinking short-term and long-term, Josh.
Yeah. So what I want to highlight for listeners is Bob really leaned into, and I agree with him completely, in coaching the system, not coaching the person. You can equate it to the whole teach a man to fish versus, just fishing for them. Like that's what Bob is talking about. And that is a longer, more challenging road, but leads to longer, more lasting success within that team. It does require patience, and this is something I struggled with. We've talked about this dozens of times. finding those little victories along the way, because you can go in, you can have that conversation, you can beat up that founder or whatever it is, like, all right, fine,
Exactly.
like, I won't do that. And then you feel like, oh, I did the thing, but you didn't, you didn't change the system.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, it can be dangerous to take that approach. In the beginning, they hired you. Let's say they hired you to be a disruptor.
Yeah.
But they didn't know what they were
Yeah. I was like,
hiring.
wait a minute.
And then over a short period of time, they're like, well, the bat is just hitting the crap out of me all the time, right? This is right. So
Yeah.
it's not always a successful strategy. There's this balancing act. That's why I'm hanging out there. Ultimately, our goal, I'm not anti-tactical short-term actions and advice, but I'm much more pro. I think we're doing our job if we have that systemic, more long-term view. So because we're changing that culture, right?
Right. So the coaching for everybody listening and watching is, yes, you're going to run into the situation. You're going to run into the situation where there's somebody hasn't realized, hasn't discovered the weight of their role that it plays, and that words as they intend aren't always received by the team or teams like they would like, because it's coming from the CEO or the CTO or the VP or the founder or the investor or whatever it is. And Bob's coaching that he gave to me 20-ish years ago was GTFO. Like, you got to get out of those meetings, get out. And you like yanked me out. And I was like, well, really? Why? I don't want to do that. And you were like, just try it. And I tried it and it worked. But not every situation is going to be like that, where you have the relationship that Bob and I have. So you have to think about, how do you coach the system? Because that change is going to affect everybody. Say that person has been in every meeting and now all of a sudden, poof, they're gone. How does the system react?
Exactly.
Does it
that's
apart?
why that's why my advice back then, it worked, but it's flawed. I don't think it universally works. The other thing, Josh, is you went out. I think you probably leveled out, but there was an abrupt disconnect. The umbilical was cut. There were some cases and situations where they needed you, and you may not have been there initially as well. So it's this binary view. It's the more strategic, that more careful view. Now you're starting to decide, when do I lean in? This is what we want. We want that the team. I'm a leader. There's times where I need to lean in. There's times when I need to lean out. There's times when I need to be neutral. I need to be figuring those things out over time. And that's the nuance that I'm starting to give. Now, I think I'm like you, Josh. It was the conversation back then and still to this day. I'm like I know what the problem is. Get your butt out of there.
Yeah.
Right. I'm this sort of like confrontation coach.
But the relationship you and I had, and just how my brain works, I contemplated the situation, and at the time, I was so excited about the team, I just knew they were better than this. And then so I had to get over my own like personal pride of, oh, you're the problem. Oh, yeah, okay. And so what I did, which not everybody might do, was I sat down with the team like, okay, cool. So I'm taking myself out of the retros. Here's why. Here's what I think the problem is. Here's the experiment. Let's do it for some number of months and see how it goes. And then give me feedback along the way about what's working, what's not. So I had to treat it as an experiment just because I thought it was the right thing to do. But also I'm very forward with my team about the things that we're doing and why. It was always important for me as someone in a team to understand why we're doing the thing. So I always make sure that when I'm making a change, because that was a drastic change, because I was leading the retrospectives, I was the one with the marker in hand and doing all the talking and all that stuff, which was the problem. But with that drastic change, I wanted to be at least like, hey, here's why, here's what I'm thinking.
Exactly.
So that we could figure it out. And so I knew enough of how to handle the situation, but not everybody's going to be in the situation to tackle that. Which
you
is why
added
we're talking about
nuance
how
just
you're
then,
coaching. Yeah.
like the transparency. the openness about this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That opens the door to, if you're not leaning in enough, the team will raise their hand and say it. You had a good part of the situation, or the nuance was you had a good team as well, right? So it's very situational, Metacasters. That's what I'm talking about. And as a coach, I think going in guns blazing like I do, and I'm softening in my old age, in my experience. I think let's say that the Josh coaching conversation was a guns blazing conversation. It worked out. It worked out okay. It worked out well, actually. But that's probably not the default posture. I would say, in hindsight, I would say be soft, be a bit softer, be a bit more nuanced. Allow things to emerge. Don't assume. Another thing that's really dangerous is assuming you know what the problem is.
Yeah.
As an advisor, that's pretty obnoxious. That's pretty egocentric, and it doesn't open the door for what if you're wrong. Like, what if I was wrong with Josh? So, what in that situation? He has no self-awareness. He's a lightweight leader, and I was freaking wrong. He was operating exactly right. It wasn't good leadership, but given the situation of the team, it was right. And then what if? Oh my God, here's a disaster in the making. He listened to me. And he pulled all the way out, and the company went down the tubes, right? So having that humility, so that softer approach is not only is your client or whoever you're coaching feeling the way, but you as the coach, it gives you runway to feel the way as well. That's what I mean by emergent.
So I have two modes of coaching. You end up with two different versions of Josh as a coach, and it depends on the length of my stay. So if I am a long-term,
bring it
full-time employee, then I play the slow game.
Yeah.
And I do all the things.
Yeah.
But if I've been brought in on a contract for a 1 month, a 6-week thing,
a gunslinger for hire.
Yeah, then it is. I am doing all of the things Bob said don't do, because it's a
situation.
I feel this responsibility of like, all right, I have 6 weeks here.
Yep.
I have to come in, I have to figure something out, and I have to give them clear direction, and I don't have time to slow play it. So again, situational, just as Bob said. So there are times where if you were to hire me and it was a short gig, a 6-week thing, whatever it is, you would get a very different version of Josh, because I feel like, I have 6 weeks to make an impact. We got to go. And so that means we got to change this. We got to do that. This has to happen.
Yep.
This is what's going on. But if I've signed up with you and I'm a full-time employee and we're here for years, then I have the patience. I'm still, leaning like we got to go fast, but still I've got the patience to get the system right. So there are two different versions of Josh.
That's an important part of the context, Josh. I mean, I very often get injected as a parachute, right? I parachute like a fire jumper. I'm jumping into a fire. And whether even people will realize it's on fire or they, whatever, I'm really fire jumping for a short period of time. That is a really important part of the context that you need to be aware of. The other thing, I don't know if you would do it. I think you do. It goes back to what you said. Be transparent about that.
Yeah.
Be fully transparent about that. I'm not just an asshole who's coming in and moving things around. I mean,
You might be.
Well, I might be, but I'm not. I mean, I'm experienced, but this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing. If you think that we're making a huge mistake together, then what you want to do is push back. But this is my role. I have 6 weeks to help you advance.
Yeah.
So I think that transparency discussion that you had in that example, right, by the prison, I think you nailed. I see. I'm scarred by the prison.
You are.
It was the razor wire that sort of took.
It was like right in the parking lot.
It's the razor wire that still haunts me to this day. So, but it's you did a great job there of sharing the nuance. Again, that I think that's a key to the Metacasters is whatever your nuance is in situational awareness, share that in the system. Be open to that in the system, as open as you can be. Anything else on this? Any more juice in this lemon? What do you think?
No, I feel
good.
I feel appropriately juiced.
I feel good about it as well. All right, Metacasters. So from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina,
and beautiful downtown Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina,
I'm Roberto Galini,
and I'm Joshua Anderson.
Shake
And bake.
Take care, y'all.